Daniel Defoe was born in 1660 into a family of dissenters, Protestant sect which refused the authority of the Church of England. He was educated at Newton Green in one of the best dissenting academies, where he studied practical subjects such as modern languages, economics and geography, besides the traditional ones. His father wanted a religious career for him, but Defoe began working as an apprentice and then went into business on his own. He suffered 2 bankruptcies, which he faced both with legal and illicit means. He started to write in week papers as a journalist. His great achievement was The Review, the periodical which he published 3 times a week from 1704 to 1713. He became a famous and well-paid intellectual by writing political essays and pamphlets till the reign of Queen Anne. The Queen did not like his critical attitude and had him arrested, tried and imprisoned. Even made 3 appearances in the pillory, which were meant to degrade him publicly, but which turned into triumph when some of his friends threw flowers at him instead of rocks or rotten eggs. He denied his weak ideas so as to be freed and became a secret agent for the new government. When he was about 60, he started to write novels, which were very successful. In 1719, he published his first novel, Robinson Crusoe, which was followed by Captain Singleton, the voyage story of a captain who becomes a pirate. In 1722, he published Moll Flanders, which is about the adventures of a woman who was born in Newgate Prison in London, and Colonel Jack, which tells the story of a pickpocket who repents and ends up leading a prosperous and respectable life. Defoe's last novel was Roxana, which deals with the adventures of a high society woman who exploits her beauty to obtain what she wants. Thanks to the money he earned with this work, he could afford a comfortable standard of life, but his old creditors haunted him and led him into numerous adventures till his death in 1731. Defoe is generally regarded as the father of the English novel, the representative of a new social class that wanted to see their life and ideals portrayed in literature. His narrative technique was original and became the basis for the development of the realistic novel. His novels are fictional autobiographies, always pretending to be true stories through the biographical details and memories provided by the protagonist. They are also preceded by a preface by the author, which emphasizes their authenticity. The structure of novels is characterized by a series of episodes and adventures held together by the unifying presence of a single hero. The lack of a coherent plot is due to the fact that Defoe neither planned his work nor revised them. His main aim as a writer was to produce a large and effective output, not intended for a critical audience. Defoe used the retrospective first-person narration and the author's point of view, mainly considered with the main characters. The characters are presented from the inside and through their action rather than from the outside. They usually appear in isolation, either physically, like Robinson Crusoe, or socially, like Moll Flanders in their struggle for survival, for their daily bread. Published in 1722, Moll Flanders is a pioneering picaresque novel that follows the survivalist journey of a woman navigating the brutal social landscape of the 17th century England. The story is presented as a retrospective autobiography narrated by Moll in her old age. Born in London's Newgate prison to a convicted felon, Moll is raised by a compassionate foster mother. She grows up determined to become a gentlewoman, which she believes means any woman who does not have to work as a servant. Most cycles through 5 marriages and several lovers, often driven by a desperate need for financial security. Their turning points include the incest in Virginia and a Lancashire husband. So she marries a plantation owner and moves to America, only to discover he's her half-brother and her mother-in-law is her biological mother. Then she marries Jamie, an Irishman she believes is wealthy. They soon realize they have both conned each other. After her final legal husband dies and leaves her destitute, Morse turns to prostitution and professional thievery. He becomes a legendary pickpocket under the mentorship of the midwife, or the Mother Midnight. Eventually caught and sent back to Newgate, she's sentenced to death, but as her sentence commuted to transportation to the colonies. In America, she reunites with Jamie, builds as a sexual plantation, and finally returns to England as was the repentant woman. Robinson Crusoe. Robinson Crusoe is full of religious references to God, sin, providence, and salvation. The novel can be read as a spiritual autobiography, where the hero reads the Bible to find comfort and guidance, experiences that constant conflict between God and evil, and keeps the diary to record events to see God's will in them. Robinson prays to God to be freed from sin rather than to be rescued from the island. What Defoe draws is the conflict between economic motivation and spiritual salvation. It is the concern with making money and dealing with worldly matters incompatible with religious faith and spiritual welfare? The Puritans found the answer to this question in doing their best to increase the gifts that God had given them as a sign of His grace. Main character in Defoe's novel is Robinson Crusoe, and besides Crusoe, born in Europe in 1632, of a German father and an English mother. At the age of 19, he decides to leave his home, his family, and a prospect of a comfortable life as a member of the trading middle class, in order to travel around the world and make his fortune. His first voyage leads him to Guinea and then back to England. During his second voyage, he is captured by Moorish pirates but managed to escape. He is finally rescued by a Portuguese ship and brought to Brazil. There, he becomes the owner of a plantation and, needing more labor, sets out on a voyage to Africa to get more slaves. During this journey, he is shipwrecked on a desert island, where he will remain for 28 years. The rest of the novel tells how he gradually rebuilds the same kind of society as exists in his country. He writes a diary where he records his experiences and debates contemporary ideas, addressing himself, the reader, and even God. After 12 years of solitude, he finds a human footprint on the shore. As time goes by, he also finds some human bones and flesh left by cannibals. Once Robinson decides to attack them, they escape and leave one of their captives, whom he calls Friday, after the day of his rescue. When other cannibals land on the island, Robinson and Friday attack them and free two of their prized prisoners, one of whom turns out to be Friday's father. The novel ends with Robinson return to England, and he discovers his discovery that his plantation in Brazil has prospered and made him very rich. The setting of most of the story, the island, is the ideal place for Robinson to prove his qualities, to demonstrate that he deserved to be saved by God's providence. Robinson organized a primitive empire on the island, then becoming the prototype of the English colonizer. So Robinson became the archetypical colonist. His stay on the island is not seen as a return to nature, but as a chance to exploit and dominate nature. The hero, Robinson, belongs to the middle class. He is restless and wants to find his own identity as an alternative to the model provided by his father. Actually, the story begins with an act of transgression of the disobedience, which places the character in a situation of separation. that will culminate with his isolation on the island after the shipwreck. Robinson's life on the island develops the issue of the relationship between the individual and society, between the private and the public spheres. The society Robinson creates on the island is not an alternative to the English one. On the contrary, it can be read as an exaltation of 18th century England and its ideals of mobility, mature productiveness, and individualism. Defoe shows that, though is God the prime cause of everything, the individual can shape this destiny through action. Man can overcome, adapt, and modify reality. He can modify reality through his work and interpretation of his achievements in light of the Bible and God's will. Robinson has a pragmatic and individualistic outlook. His objective and rational approach to reality is demonstrated by his journal keeping. His progress reinvents the learning processes of baking, shipbuilding, carpentry, and farming. Friday is the first native character to be portrayed in the English novel. He is attractive and lively. The moment Robinson rescues him, it teaches him the word master, Western culture, and read the Bible. So Friday, it becomes the symbol of the colonized. So we can read the relationship between Friday and Robinson has the relation between a master and a servant. The novel shows an objective approach to the events through clear and precise details. Defoe concentrates his description on the primary qualities of objects, especially their solidity, extension, and numbers, rather than on the secondary ones. The language is simple, matter-of-fact, and concrete, to reinforce the impression of reality conveyed by the first-person narration. Curiosities. Daniel Defoe adopted the aristocratic-sounding "the" in surname in 1695 when writing Robinson Crusoe. He seemed to have had in mind a cruising voyage round the world by Captain Boots Borges, which told the story of Alexander Selkirk, a Scottish sailor who managed to survive alone on one of the Juan Fernandez Island for 5 years.